My name is Joyce Daniels, Queen of Talk, and it's my honor to be Master of Ceremonies today. And if you clap right now, it will be a good place, and I will take it. Thank you. I would ask us very respectfully to rise together as we commit today's event into the hands of the Almighty God. Can we do that? And I'll welcome Mrs. Temitope Johnson, Investment Manager at UPDC, to lead us in this opening prayer. Please receive her with an applause as she comes forward. Immediately after the prayer, we'll remain standing for the Nigerian National Anthem, stanza 1.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we say thank you for the opportunity to gather today. We say thank you for journey mercies. We commit this summit into your hands. We pray that it shall be very successful, and we pray that it will impact the lives of every single person here and those joining virtually. And we also pray that you will take us to our different destinations safely. In the name of Jesus, we have prayed. Amen.
Please remain standing where you are. I'll give you a moment to get your seat to join me.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Thank you all so much. If you haven't said hello to the person sitting behind you, please turn around and say hello to them. Good morning. It's a good day to be seated close to you. It's a wonderful time to have you here discussing things that would make us a greater nation. Yes, when you've done that, you may please be very comfortably seated. To deliver the opening remarks as we take our seats comfortably, it is my honor, my privilege to welcome to the microphone a forward thinker per excellence, a man who cares not just for people, but cares for our great nation and is serving Nigeria through his own angle of real estate. I'm talking about our Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, UPDC PLC. Please welcome Mr.
Good morning, everyone. UPDC's 4th annual real estate summit. So this event is happening at a pivotal time in the history of our nation and in the positioning of our industry. We know about population explosion in the country, and we've all seen the impact of congestion and slum in our cities. We've seen, if you drive along the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway, you see the harrowing congestion that people face every morning. And these are things that we believe that perhaps the design and the development of new towns can help resolve. So today, we are privileged to have in our midst some of the best minds in the industry, both in the public sector and the private sector, who are here to enlighten us about the impact of new towns, both in our economic development and also in our individual lives. So I would like to thank you all for making out the time to come here today. We're going to have a very exciting interaction, and we look forward to, exploring more ideas during the course of this summit. So I want to use this opportunity to welcome everyone and see how the event goes as we go along. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ojo, for welcoming us. Indeed, we're going to have a great time because you have curated it to make it happen. Please, once again, please appreciate MD and CEO UPDC PLC. I'd like to recognize the presence of the chairman, Agbara Estates Limited and Lawson Corporation, Mr. Kolapo Lawson. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. The chairman, Yolas Consultants, Engineer Lanre Shagaya, is also here. Good morning, sir, and thank you for being here. Our keynote this morning, interesting that we would listen to this because this is a driver, and that's why we are seated here to drive the economy to the next level. It is the place of real estate in Nigeria's economic growth, exploring the impact of new towns on economic development. What don't we know? What should we know? What should we be preparing for? What should we avoid? What should we plan for? And I'm sure these are some of the questions that will be answered in the course of the keynote. Our keynote speaker is an academic now, but before this time, he has served as an economist and governance expert at the African Development Bank, the Central Bank. He's worked with major regulators and leading corporates on economic policy and national development. Over 2 decades of research and reform work across Africa and the United Kingdom. And so he brings his experience to bear. Please join me welcome the Director, Public Sector Initiative.
Good morning, everyone. I thought that the Honorable Commissioner, who is the governor, is supposed to say opening remarks before I say anything. So I don't want to leave here and I will be arrested. Not only that, the Honorable Commissioner is my Oga in PAU. So it's against protocol for me to actually say something before him. So if possible, I will beg that he makes opening remarks before I start. I think it might be appropriate. Honorable Commissioner, please go ahead. Please come so they don't reprimand me when I get back to Lagos Business School. But if all of you agree, and all of you will bear witness that he agreed, then I can go ahead. Okay? Thank you very much. If you can put up my slides, please. So first of all, good morning again. And thank you, UPDC, for inviting me. And interestingly, I came back yesterday to Lagos. And one of the reasons why I accepted to speak today is that the issue of new town has been on my mind. And I've actually written about it. I actually said that Nigeria, we should start with developing at least 6 regional new towns. Because from the way things are going, so yesterday, I was in a city and it was around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the school closed. If you see the surge from schools, the school children, you will begin to wonder, what came to my mind is, what is our plan for this country in terms of these people coming out? They are going to grow. I was seeing mothers everywhere. And I was saying, most of them will give maybe 3, 4, 5 children, and are going to live in somewhere and all. So it keeps coming to my mind. One of the other reasons that made me to accept is that my first master's in Cardiff University. So we have a course that they call Regional Integration Strategies. And the first assignment they gave us, the professor gave us, is to write a 1-page of why most cities in the UK, shopping complexes, that they don't have any burglary proofs on the shopping complexes. And we all wrote the reasons why we believe that is the case, and we all failed. So he now gave us another assignment. He said, why do we, in most cities in the UK, that they have 3 universities? We all went and started researching, going to libraries, staying for a long time, and we all wrote again, and we all failed. I hope you're following. So he now came back and said that this is the reason why we are doing this course. The need for proper planning. The need for, because my course, what I did was comparative political economy. So it was more or less comparing policies of different countries and how they've used the policies to actually accelerate sustainable and inclusive economic development. So we all failed that course. And he now gave us one of the reasons. He said that in most cities in the UK, they have 3 universities. And the reason is that 3 universities means 100,000 students. And 100,000 students means 100,000 rooms occupied. 100,000 students means 100,000 commuters. 100,000 means 100,000 cheap labor. It means 100,000 potential patients, 100,000 people that will go to a supermarket. And before you know it, the economy is, they call it what they call associational economy. That means it's integrated. Because it means that you can actually say, okay, we want to cite 3 universities in Ekpe. And before you know it, you have 100,000 people living in Ekpe, and it starts expanding. He now said that one of the reasons why they don't have burglary proofs is that the people that will clean the burglary proofs, they need to travel for about 30 minutes from, out of town, out of the city, to be able to clean. And when they come in, they have to work for about 6-8 hours cleaning. And they have to go back again to where they're coming from. So their essence is to create satellite towns where they will stay, but they will now connect it with proper public transport. He now asked us that supposing you clean for 8 hours, using your hand, doing like this for 8 hours, that at the end of the day, you will not have any time for crime. Because you'll be tired, and you'll be thinking of going home and coming back again for another day's work. So you find out that in terms of planning, it's an integrated planning, where real estate, education, finance, transport, shopping, leisure, all of them are properly integrated in the planning to create what they call new towns. And that's exactly what we are discussing today. In terms of how can new towns, how can they impact on economic development? And when they say that we don't have jobs in Nigeria, and we have immense opportunities, you begin to wonder, is it that we are not seeing some of the things that people are doing, which we are going to see today? Sorry, do you have a clicker that I can use? Because, as a teacher, I don't know how to just, I hope this thing will not collapse before, because it's been shaking us. Is there any clicker, please, I can use? Oh, it's very difficult for you to be changing for me. Okay, I think what I will do is that I will use, sorry, there's no clicker. Okay. Okay, so what I will do is, as I'm talking, if you can pay attention, please, and you can be changing the slides the way I'm talking. So if we remember, I'm sure some of you that know Lekki, I remember that time I was in Unilag, and somebody was telling us there's a place near VI that they are selling. And our GDP needs to be re-examined. Because some of the things that we use to calculate our GDP, we're actually losing a significant part of our ecosystems, which once we include it in our GDP, it will help, it will enhance so many things. As you all know, once your GDP is very, very high, it means that your GDP per capita is also high. It means that when you are borrowing money, you can actually borrow at a lower interest rate, which will now have more impact on the economy, and everything will just be growing as explained before in terms of national economy. In terms of regional snapshots, you look at developed markets. Europe listed commercial property is about 9.9 trillion. Listed is about 426 billion. North America, 13.2 trillion. Listed, 1.3 trillion. Asia Pacific, 4.3 and 556. So you find out that the largest markets are coming from Switzerland, US, and Japan. I just gave my MBA students an exam. And one of the questions I asked them, I said, given that Africa, in terms of intra-African trade, is just about 3%, what can we do differently to really jumpstart inter-regional trade, particularly with regards to real estate? How can real estate jumpstart what we are doing? Or you choose any sector that you want. If you go to Abidjan or you go to other African countries and see the development of real estate and what is also going on in Nigeria, and you now look at developed markets like maybe other developing markets like Dubai or India and all that, you see that even though we are bragging that we are improving in real estate, it will let you know that we still have a long way to go. And the question then is, how do we engineer proper coordination? I'm not talking about real estate of one estate in VGC or one estate in Chevron or Shango Today or maybe Keja GRA, as the case may be. I think there is a need for real estate organizations. Encouragingly, our Honorable Commissioner is here to really bring about better coordination and synergy, to create towns, proper towns. Because personally, my friend that stays in the same estate with me said that he cannot stay in our estate again. I said, why? He said, because it takes him about 3 hours to commute from VGC to VI almost every morning. And it's challenging. And I believe that if we're able to come together, we should be able to engineer a better development of Nigeria. Because as we're going to see, real estate is at the center, is at the fulcrum of sustainable economic development. If we look at this, emerging markets, we have 10.9 trillion. And in terms of listed, 7.9 billion. And in terms of global share index, is about 71.6. So let's look at real estate in Nigeria, the current status and implications. So real estate, we are told, contributes about, it's more or less the third pillar in our GDP, contributing about 12.8%. So the question is this what we want? Can we do better? The answer is yes. Why do we have to focus on real estate? One, because of the investment potential, urbanization and housing demand, employment, and value chain relationships. As I explained earlier on, 3 universities give us 100,000 students. And 100,000 students gives us 100,000 rooms occupied. 100,000 students means 100,000 commuters. 100,000 students means 100,000 shoppers. It means 100,000 cheap labor. And it means 100,000 potential entrepreneurs, employees, and all that. So the question is, if you see the opportunity in real estate, you appreciate the importance of real estate. That is highly, highly, highly significant. So let's focus on new towns. So what are new towns? We all know what it means, but let's even have a brief definition. And it says that new towns are not just suburbs or urban expansions. As I said, it's not about maybe Pearl Gardens Estate or maybe Ocean Bay Estate, as we are seeing in different parts of Nigeria, Lagos. It says they are conceived as self-contained communities with their own housing, employment, industry, commerce, and leisure facilities intended to relieve pressure from overcrowded major cities and drive regional development. If you stay in Lagos and maybe you didn't travel, maybe for about a year, and you go to Uyo in Akwa Ibom, how do you feel? You say? You feel refreshed. I'm sure I'm sure it happened to many people. Anytime I go, I leave Lagos, it's like my BP comes down. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it happens to other people. But anytime I leave Lagos, I feel highly, But once you come here, the way they will harass you, the worst happens to you when you travel outside Nigeria, and you now land at international airport, and you want to leave the airport. It's normally madness, because you are even. I remember once I came back with some people who are not Nigerians, who are visiting us for the first time. When we came out of that place, they ran back to the airport. They ran him back inside the airport. And they said, is everything okay? I said, yes, everything is okay. This is the boss of Lagos, that you have to behave like this to be able to. So it's something that we need to really rethink. And that's, of course, as I said, new towns brings housing, it brings employment, it brings industry, it brings leisure. Let's look at some examples of new towns. So many of you know Milton Keynes in UK. And the way you are in Milton Keynes, but you can be in London in less than 1 hour. So if, more or less, you are in London. But you go to Milton Keynes, you feel, relaxed. You feel like you are in a more organized city than the chaos that you have in London. Even some parts of Middlesex is also as organized. So the last time I was in UK a few weeks ago, and I flew through Gatwick. And the taxi driver that picked me told me that he was living in London before. Now he's staying in Gatwick. I said, why did you move to Gatwick? He said, because of the kind of development that they're having there and the kind of integration, what they call regional integration strategies, that are using it to really revamp the whole area. And that is what new town is supposed to be. Other examples, we have Lichfield and Welwyn Garden, is also in the UK. We have Brasilia in Brazil, which is a purpose-built national capital to develop the country's interior. Abuja is an example of a new town. But I'm not sure that Abuja is really can be properly classified as a new town, given what is going on there. If you go to Abuja, I'm sure we'll all agree, you have to be careful the way you drive, the way things happen. And once you leave the city, they will tell you to be very careful. But I know that in some new towns, particularly in UK, you can actually travel and you know that you are really in a new town. The new place. I'm sure, do we know a place called Suffolk Quays in Manchester? It was a seaport connecting UK and US and Canada before. And they turned it into a new place. And it more or less integrated it back into Manchester. And it became an expansion. So what I'm trying to say is that it's important for us in Nigeria to see how we can rethink what we are doing. I keep referring to the government because another commissioner is here. Because the government has a serious role to play to enhance what we want to do. Why the focus on new towns? One is because Lagos, somebody was saying that Lagos is going to, in terms of our urban centers in Nigeria, we're going to have about 180 million people living in urban centers by 2050. I hope you are following. And of course, when we say 180 million by 2050, the question is what percentage will Lagos attract? It's already attracting millions and millions and millions. Somebody told me that even if you see a land outside Lagos, buy. Because Lagos is going to move from Lagos to Ogun. It has already moved to Ogun, from Ogun to maybe Ondo, as the case may be, the way things are going. And Atlantic, no, you people are already taking Atlantic Ocean. We already have Eco-Atlantic. And I can see that we are expanding and expanding and expanding. But my friend said that the water wave, is always reminding him that one day that anything can happen. But we are not praying for that. But my thinking, when I was discussing about new towns, I believe and I argued that for Southwest, a new town can be created connecting Ogun, Ondo, and Lagos. That's my thinking. So that once you are in the new town, before you know it, you're already in Benin. Which means that the Southwest new town is almost automatically connecting South-South new town. And the South-South new town can be Edo State, Delta, and possibly Bayelsa and Rivers. And you now connect it to Southeast, then North Central, and that is how to create real sustainable economic development. And if given the population growth we are having in Nigeria, 189 million people living now in our cities is a serious issue. And my concern is that I keep saying, we are not thinking deeply about this about this our country. I've said it on Arise, I've written about it, and it's important that we think seriously about Nigeria in so many aspects. If you go to some cities, and as I said, when the school closes, you see the population coming out of schools, secondary school, primary school, universities. The question is, what is our plan for these people? It's a serious issue. You know, as I said before, we need to move beyond that UPDC is building one estate in Brompton or in Lekki Phase 2, as the case may be. We need to do big things. One of the former CEOs of a bank in UK, his advert that he's a big boy, and he runs a big bank, and he drives a big car, and his son is a big boy, and he has everything about him is big, 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 big. So we have to do big things. So I'm saying that for us in real estate, we need to think of doing big things. And that big things will be, how do we coordinate and develop really new towns? It's very, very important. It's more or less a threat to our national development. In terms of infrastructure-led growth, once we're able to do new town, we find that everything will just change. But for us to do it, we need to also embrace new technologies. We need to embrace ESG. We need to embrace green living. We need to embrace transport and connectivity. When I was in UK, I was going to London every week to teach from Manchester. And of course, because I know that once I'm in the train station, in 2 hours, before I will even finish my slide, I'm already in London. So the question is, can anybody live 5 hours from Lagos and be in Lagos in 2 hours? So that's the question we have to be thinking. When we say that Nigeria is growing, what are the indices that we use to measure development? It's not about saying that GDP is improving or this one is improving. Those are primary and elementary indices of measuring development. We need to, as I said, do big things. In terms of sustainable and inclusive growth, that we say in the next 5 years, this is what we want to target. In the next 10 years, this is what we want to target. And I believe that if we do it, this idea of struggling with 4% or 3-point-something percent or 5% GDP growth, we will definitely land in a double-digit economic GDP growth if we do what we are supposed to do. And if we take this forward, we look at employment beyond construction. With new towns, of course, we have commercial offices, we have retail and service outlets, we have education and healthcare, we have logistics and operations. As I said, 100,000, 3 universities gives us 100,000 students. And of course, you know the impact it's going to have. In Manchester, or even in Cardiff, I remember that I paid part of my school fees in working in factories. And it's because that the factories believe that with the students, we students normally collect cheap wages. And it now helps to drive the economic growth of that society. In terms of stimulating the value chain, new towns helps us in terms of local sourcing of materials and equipment, helps us in developing professional services in terms of architects, planners, engineers, helps contractors and builders, looks at operational facility, and in terms of operational management. So the benefits is immense, and it's not something we can actually exhaust today. I'm looking at time, and they're giving me signs that my time is going. So, but I'm sure that for you to be here, I was told that you were carefully selected, and that they checked that your level of understanding is super. You understand real estate. You also very, very looked after. You are part of the 1% of Nigerians that are doing well. And I'm sure if you look now, you can see that big, exactly. I hope you understand. So one of my friends left one of the political parties and joined another political party. And his local government chairman called him and was dancing on the phone, singing praises. And he said, why are you singing? He said, because you are a big fish. Now that we caught you, that we want to catch more big fish. I'm sure many people here are big fishes or fish, or as the case may be. So if we use this, we now look at the residential demand centers. So we have premium housing, middle income housing, affordable and social housing, improved housing, and social mobility and wealth creation. As I keep saying, these are just summary. It's not something for me to dwell more because I believe that you all understand perfectly what we are trying to say here. in terms of how new towns can actually improve both commercial, residential, and all that. In terms of regional rebalancing, as I mentioned earlier on, new towns can be far from the city, but properly connected to the city through good transport. So you find out, as I said, you can be in Manchester and be in London. You can be in Manchester and be in Liverpool, Birmingham, Leeds. All of them are connected. So it doesn't really matter where you stay and where you work, because the whole towns are connected and they're all integrated. But me that stay in Niger side, before I come to VI, anytime I come to VI, I have to come and stay in a hotel because of the traffic. This morning, I actually came yesterday because I came back to Lagos yesterday. I have to go and stay in a hotel to come to this place this morning. Because if I leave my estate and come here, I might not get here on time unless I leave around 5 o'clock, which is not the way it's supposed to be. So the question is, how do we have this kind of development? I don't see any reason why you cannot be in Ijebu-Ode and be in Lagos. I don't see any reason why you cannot be in Egbe and be in VI in 30 minutes. Or why you cannot be maybe in between Ibadan and Lagos and be here? Why you cannot even be in Akure and get to Lagos on time? So these are the things that we are supposed to be thinking and really re-engineer economic development. Moving forward, in terms of value creation, these are new towns help to create value. And in terms of high-quality master plan development, high-quality asset value, investment and improvement, and attract international capital. One of the fintechs organization that we're doing something for, when we had a session with the bank CEOs, and they told them that the fintech, they need to embrace technology more. And they said, don't worry, that some of these fintechs will not really see. But the fintech boys said that they're going to disrupt the whole industry. And I'm sure we all know that they're really disrupting the industry. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I normally do a survey. I normally write the bank's name and go to different cities in Nigeria and just ask somebody, which bank will you open an account with? I hope you understand. Most of the time, as I say, 4 years ago, they would normally tell me Access Bank, GT, Zenith, UBA, First Bank, what we call the Fugazi banks. But interestingly, I've done it in the last 2 months. And what I'm getting, individuals, all of them are telling me OPay. And the businesses are telling me Money Point. So it's OPay, Money Point. OPay, Money Point. So I asked them, I say, what is going on? He said, you go see your money. I hope you understand. So the question is, how do we disrupt the real estate industry? The way these fintechs have disrupted the real estate industry, the financial services industry, is what we are supposed to do in the real estate industry. In terms of history of new towns, it's also littered, but we also have to bear in mind that new towns also has its challenges. So some of the challenges that we face in new town is, one, in terms of costs, in terms of population, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of environment, in terms of governance, and in terms of economy. So these are areas that we have to look at in terms of these challenges. But as I said, because of time, they already tell me that my time is up. And you can see our MC standing up and sitting down, which is signaling me that my time is up. But what are the key factors that we need to consider for success? One is phasing of new town development. 2 is the economy. 3 is location. 4 is the governance. And 5 is what? Livability. So the question is, what does all this mean for Nigeria and UPDC? 1, implications for Nigeria. We have immense economic opportunities and job creation. We have urban planning and infrastructure needs. We have socioeconomic benefits that we need to look into. For UPDC, we more or less in terms of affordable housing and also high-end housing. Investment attraction, it will help you in terms of investment attraction and also in terms of strategic planning and advantage. That is urbanization demand, planned and mixed-use schemes, execution and reputation gain, and then what we should also bear in mind, the risk and cost management. So if we look at this, rising construction costs, regulatory hurdles, volatility in the economy, cost pressure, approval plans. Interestingly, you are a friend to the Commissioner for Urban Planning, so you will not have any issues with with, with approvals, careful project execution, regulatory compliance and cost control, and strengthened financing need. MC, I'm concluding now. So, so in conclusion, the future for Nigeria cities begins now. And let me say that our decisions today shape our cities of tomorrow. And real estate is more than structures, it is opportunity and prosperity. New towns and urban communities can turn housing deficit to national growth and development. And I believe that together we can build the cities that define the greatness of our nation. If there's anything that you don't understand today, please come to Lagos Business School for further training. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Professor Ngu, excellent delivery, yes? Very enlightening, easy to assimilate, easy to understand, easy to envision, easy to see how to plug in, but has also opened a number of questions that we hope that in the course of the next conversation and the panel as well, we would have more answers. Please appreciate our keynote speaker for today, Professor Franklin Ngu from Lagos Business School and the UK. Welcome. Thank you so much. Whilst he was speaking, one of our members of the board of directors came in, Mr. Deni Falade, non-executive director. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. We'll bring you a sneak peek video that talks about one of our cities, Brompton City. And after that, the conversations this morning will continue. Please enjoy.
What next?
Before we talk about what's next, let's talk about what's now. Let's talk about what's now. This is Hampshire Estates. 5 hectares of precision-built purpose, a central sewage system, smart drainage, clean paved roads, a water treatment plan, 24/7 power, green zones, and on-ground facility management. It's not just real estate, it's UPDC keeping its promise. But what's next? Welcome to Brompton City. 30 hectares of mixed-use possibility designed for dreamers, builders, and investors. Strategically located at Lekki Scheme 2, it's bold, future-forward, and fully UPDC. The future of real estate, it's already happening. Brompton City is what's next. Invest now, be part of tomorrow.
Appreciate Brompton City. The first conversation was the eye-opener to new cities. This conversation by our special guest of honor is now the role of government in new towns development, urban planning, the challenges and the prospects. And to deliver this conversation is a man who has spent over 30 years working in construction, project management, major estate developments from NNPC to Intercontinental Bank property, now with Lagos State government. So he has practical lived understanding of what it really takes to plan and build new towns. Please help me receive the Honorable Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Lagos State, Builder Dr. Oluyinka Olumide, as he comes forward to speak to
I hope it's structurally, because when we go out to demolish buildings, one of the things we consider is that if the structure is not structurally suitable. MD sir, Professor, members of the board of UPDC, ladies and gentlemen, I say good morning once again. I'm highly happy to be here again to talk on this very important topic. And before I go into my own paper properly, let me just a quick remark to what the Prof just said. In the government, we have identified the importance of new town development, which is going to be part of what I'm going to talk about. However, you will observe from the complaints he laid this morning, part of the solutions we are providing is the fact that we want to go aggressively on transportation infrastructures. You observe that we already have the red line, which is from Agbado down to Lagos, and we have the blue line, which is from CMS to Maitu. There are plans to extend it to Okoko and Badagry so that people from Badagry can, under 15-20 minutes, commute down to city centers. And we also have the green line, which is commencing now from CMS to Free Take Zone. However, just yesterday, our governor presented a budget to the House. And what we have is a budget of capacity of about 4.23 trillion. Now, if you convert that to dollars, that is just about roughly above $3 billion. It's still a very, very small amount. And that has been the challenge of the state. There are a lot of things to be done, and we are ready, they are in plans, but it has to be backed by finance. So we're already working in that regard, and we hope that we can meet the challenges. I'll be talking on Newtown and implication on economic development, the role of government in Newtown development. Let me, before, quickly seek audience of the MC that I try to squeeze this thing as much as possible, but I will not take much time, but I will plead that you allow me to finish this paper. So, please. Lagos is one of the fastest growing mega cities in the world. We all know that. The city is characterized by rapid urbanization, high population density, housing congestion, infrastructural deficits, and environmental degradation. It's the smallest in the country with a landmass of about 3,577 square kilometers. About 1/4 of it is water and swamp. This translates to about 0.4% of the Nigerian total landmass. And with a population of about 25 million, that's a big challenge to the state. This puts the population density at about 7,000 persons per kilometer, whereas the whole of Nigeria is about 256 persons per kilometer. This needs to manage the state's, there is a need to manage the state's land efficiently and effectively and efficiently. And this has been put as our priority. This prompted the state government under the administration of Lateef Kayode Jakonde, the first civilian administrator in Lagos State, to create the Lagos State Newtown Development Authority in 1983. The function, among others, are to develop, hold, manage, sell, lease, or let to persons or companies properties, dwelling houses, offices, commercial houses, and industrial buildings within Lagos. To encourage and facilitate the building of houses within Lagos State. And lastly, to oversee and supervise the day-to-day progress of approved development scheme. These functions were later reviewed by successive administration due to changes in circumstances. For instance, the Mudashiru administration in 1984 reviewed the functions of the authority to focus on 42 priority schemes in Lagos, site selection for public and private developers, and preparation of new schemes, sites, and service. In 1991, the authority, that's Newtown, in addition to its statutory function, was saddled with the implementation of the private estate developer scheme in collaboration with the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development and land bureaus then under the Town and Country Planning, which is Lagos State Land and Housing CAP 1990. Example of such government development schemes under NTA are the Lekki Peninsula Scheme 1, Scheme 2, Omole Scheme 1 and 2, Magodo Scheme 1 and 2, Isheri North, Ikpaja Residential Scheme, Egon, Igondo, Akitson Residential Scheme, Amu Odofin Newtown, Ikoru GRA Scheme, to mention a few. The authority also partnered with private sectors developers in development of many estates in the bid of the government to provide housing for the teeming population of the state. According to Bureau of Statistics, the growth rate of Nigerian population is about 3.2%. The Lagos own is about 3.9%, and a significant portion of that 3.9% is as a result of influx, not necessarily by birth, thereby posing serious challenge on the government infrastructures. From the Lagos Executive Development Board, which was an offshoot of the Newtown Development Authority, urban planning has been playing a significant role in providing housing and complementary infrastructures facilities to Lagos State, from the Surulere scheme to the development scheme in Ikmori and the recent public-private partnership housing scheme and the site and service scheme. Example of the PPP in the private sector include the Victoria Garden Estates, the Mayfair Estates, the Crown Estates, just to mention a few. Now, the role of Lagos State government in Newtown development and urban planning. One, we have redistribution of population for balanced economic development. You agree with me if, for example, now the Eco Atlantic, the kind of development they're having there is such that there is even no provision for boys' quarter. There is no provision for boys' quarter. However, who is going to wash their bathroom? Who is going to cut their lawns? Who is going to drive or wash their cars? It has to be low-level human being. And where will they be living if there are no provision for them? It's still a tug of war that we're still fighting with them. However, somebody that will do that kind of activities, how much is his salary? Will such a person be able to rent a room, BQ at Lekki or VI or Ikoyi or even Obalende? So that brings the problem to the government. And continuously, almost on every weekend, we have to clean the city centers of mistrans, people hiding under advert board to make a place where they live. So the solution to that is to invest more aggressively in transportation, so that when they live outside the city center, they can commute very easily at a cheaper cost in the morning. And that's why we're investing heavily on the rail infrastructure. Lagos State government adopted Newtown development as a planning and growth management strategy to dispatch population from congested metropolitan areas to the sparsely populated southwest Lekki Peninsula subregion and northeast Ekpe division of the state. The process was facilitated by the implementation of the technical committee reports of the Lagos Metropolitan Master Plan of 1980 to 2000. The two strategic plans provided the strategic direction for redistribution of population in Lagos State. The Metropolitan Master Plan Technical Committee prepared detailed implementation plans for Lekki Peninsula, Southwest, Northwest, and Northeast region of the state, from where the states approved the preparation of the scheme and infrastructure for development of the area. The most significant of the urban development from plans was the construction of the Etiosa-Lekki Expressway. This was opened up by the Jakonde administration. As Prof said then, when we were about starting Lagos Business School then, from VI to Ekpe, you can actually count the number of buildings that you see on the road. And you must be a man to be able to drive at 5 p.m., you know. But you can see what we have there today. The expressways open up the region for development and interconnection. with other parts of the state and beyond. It should be noted that the Ekpe was not initially connected directly to Lagos until the construction of the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. Before, you have to go through Ikorodu to get to Ekpe. It was Jakande that opened up that area in 1982. Now, second, reduction of pressure on core urban areas. Apart from redistribution of population, the creation of new towns with business districts helps in reducing pressure from the Lagos Island as the major CBD for the states. Before, when you talk of Lagos, it's essentially Lagos Island and Victoria Island. But with the expansion of the road now, you have the Lekki corridor, and Ibejuax is also picking up now. Promotion of orderly spatial development. This refers to leveraging on private participation by way of estates layouts development. The Lagos State Government, through the Physical Planning and Urban Development and its agencies, collaborates with the private sector to formulate, design, and approve new towns for development in orderly and sustainable approach. This helps to prevent hazardous development. Orderly and resilient residential estates in public and private sectors also helps in reducing growth of slums within the new state. However, the challenge with this, I must quickly point out, is that when new towns are laid out and we have land divided out in terms of land use, there is always the pressure from people wanting to convert for use. The land may have been designated for a particular purpose, maybe recreational, and people will now come because it's been assessed that maybe putting up a petrol station or hotel, and you start seeing the pressure. These are not too good. Provision of modern infrastructure and housing. Effective urban planning also facilitates the provision of decent housing schemes, therefore reducing the housing needs of the state. At the commissioning of one of our housing estates, Mr. Governor did mention that, yes, we could have competition, because we observe that in Lagos State, the Ministry of Housing, they are engaging in housing production. Likewise, Lagos Building Investment Corporation, they are also into housing production. Also, LSDPC, they are also involved, and sometimes Ibile Holdings also engage in that. So it's healthy competition as a way of solving the housing need of the state. Regulatory framework for urban development. The Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development formulates the legislation and preparation of development of new towns in the state. The enabling Lagos State law for new town are provided under the Lagos State and Urban and Regional Planning Development of 2019 and its subsidiary regulations. Apart from the ministry's approval of layouts and development scheme, a developer, whether private or government, shall apply for planning permits in such manner, using such forms and providing such information and documentation as may be prescribed by the regulation under these laws. Here we have a lot of challenge on this because sometimes ago we visited Ikorodu, Ekpe, and Lekki axis, and we discovered that a significant percentage of all the estates in that area are not with approval. And this is not very good. Majority of them are bought in on agric land, and it will be difficult for them to have. The advice is that if the ministry is approached, you can request for the plan, our operative development plan. It gives you all the details you need to know in terms of divisioning of the land, so that before you commit funds, you are fully in the know. New growth pole. Well-planned new towns support economic node, as also identified by the Prof. The Lekki Free Trade Zone, the Ekpe Airport, the Badagry Deep Sea Port, the Agbawa Industrial Zone, this improves the regional competitiveness. Now, I don't know how many of us here have actually seen some of the operative development plans that we produce, because Lagos State is almost about the only state that is aggressively, regularly providing, updating all their plans. And, you know, in property development, it's not only about buildings, residential buildings or commercial buildings. The moment you effect a change on the natural course of any land, that is development. The way God has made the land, once human being moves there to change the way it is naturally to any other use, that is property development. And it may interest you to know, I've done some exercises trying to put costs together. Some of these non-residential or commercial structures, some of them might be recreational, sometimes provide high yields in terms of return. If you do an analysis of the stations, pick a stations in UK, for example, and try to do a cost analysis of it. Compare with if it has been given out as land for development, either estate or commercial. It may surprise you to know that it might pay to do that kind of investment. In our plans, we have so many fantastic things that we are pleading and looking for investors to come and take charge. Not necessarily housing or office complex. The people that will live in those houses or work in those offices, they also need to recreate. And the way the world is going now with AI, there are so many things that you can delegate out. But you can't delegate somebody to watch film for you. You can't delegate somebody to go and relax for you. You have to do it yourself. So I think it's high time we start looking in that direction as a big-time player like UPDC. Environmental resilience. New towns development established with approved urban development plan provides safer and resilient environment for communities developed on floodplain or other vulnerable location. We also try to carve out new areas for, of course, we've been mindful of what we all know now, the climate change. It's actually a thing that no one can. Just last week, we were at an event in Ekwe. The deputy governor was supposed to come, and we were commissioning the housing estate with the governor at Ogombo. And behold, very serious heavy rain. Before, when we were young, by now we should be having what they call Apollo then, that comes with Amatan. But those things are gone. That's climate change we are talking about. Challenges of new town development and urban planning. Please pay attention here. Land acquisition and compensation. Of course, the government will have to acquire the land and pay compensation to the locals. Sometimes these are not easy. You have litigation and all the rest. Even if they are solved, you have the locals, your moneyless, still going back to sell those lands. And when eventually the layouts are completed and people are allotted their rightful plots, then the fight will now begin. For example, some of our schemes in Lagos now, we have some of them that has been encroached upon to the extent of about 70%. Now, for that kind of a percentage, it would be crazy for any government to say, we'll roll out the machine and we'll start demolishing. Although we also have a role to play, because once it has been acquired and compensation has been paid, we are supposed to take immediate possession. Infrastructural financing. There is high cost of development of basic infrastructure such as roads, drainage channel, bridges, and the likes. I mean, this poses a lot of challenge to the problem. Sometimes I look at the governor, I pity him, because he's a very soft man. He has a very soft mind of wanting to satisfy everybody. But of course, the big ugly man will come in, that's finance. Will come in. So it's also a challenge. Some of those, because people, we try and, we did a comparison between Isimi or something like how much they sell their plots with the government plots. And of course, you have to provide the same thing. We all heard what the Minister for Works said about the coastal road, that it was about 4 billion naira per kilometer. I called a set of quantity surveyors for us to sit down and actually analyze that cost. And we surprisingly, we got about 2.89 billion for a kilometer. That is exclusive of the compensation because we are not involved in that. Just a way of checking what the minister said. So the cost is actually quite high. And again, when they talk of low-cost housing, I really wonder whether we can have anything called low-cost housing. And unfortunately, anytime a mention is made of a low-cost housing, the sites that will come quickly to mind will be areas where you have to improve. There is no way you will improve any site and it will come out as low-cost. It's not possible. To stabilize the height for you to do any construction, it can never come out as a low-cost scheme. Fragmented or weak governance. This is to ourselves now. There are coordination gaps among key stakeholders like the Ministry of Physical Planning, Urban Development, Land Bureaus, Survey General Office, NTDA, local government, and private sectors. Sometimes we have challenges among ourselves. Ministry of Physical Planning has designated a certain area for a purpose. Our lands issued C of O for another reason, and the person comes and we say, no, you can't develop this, so it becomes a problem. But this, of course, are things that we need to solve if we must move up in terms of benefiting from new town development plans. Environmental risk. Environmental challenges arising from coastal erosion, flooding, degradation of wetland affects projects located in areas like Lekki and Badagry. Sometimes in, I think, 2023 or thereabout, the Commissioner for Environment went and demolished some houses around Lekki, Ogombwari, Ikota area. And, of course, I was put on charge. And my point is very clear. If any one of them have approval, let them come. Until today, no one of them has been able to provide any approval. That is still a serious challenge to us in the state. And this is, sorry, this is simple, basic law. You cannot effect any development without approval. It's like you have your phone today. If it is not registered, you cannot use it. It's as simple as that. The same thing with the building. We don't, as a government, need to force you. It's a standard norm that you must get authority, which is a child is being born. That's the same thing with building. There's nobody seated here or anybody on night that will not have a birth certificate. It's the same thing with building. And let me just bring this example under this environmental risk, because when we had a collaboration with HFP then, and guidelines were given to them, you know, HFP, they did Dolphin, they did VGC, they did Mayfair. There was also one in the Buttermint that they did, and we gave them all the guidelines and criteria to follow. Unfortunately, this was not followed to the latter, and that explains the problem you are having there. All these essays I mentioned, once it's rainy season, they always have problem. Uncontrolled peri-urban expansion. In many cases, and because of poor enforcement, informal settlement often outpace planned development. This is very common around new areas like Lekki and Ekpe. They've been there, now we have to do a plan to accommodate them, leading to unregulated sprawls or slums. Inclusivity. Many new towns development prioritize middle or upper income group, therefore limiting affordability. How much do we think the cheapest building can go for? Let's say a 2-bedroom flat. It will probably cost, using all the very basic building material, zinc sheets, Naco louver for the window, just basic. It will probably come out at about maybe 10 million. Now, what about the building? Because you cannot be talking of a house if there is no access to that house, if there is no provision of supporting infrastructures like water and power. So by the time you put all these together, we'll probably come up something like 15 to 20 million. Our designers have been challenged because if we go, let's say we travel down Akure inward, like that, you will see real low-cost housing. But bring it to the city. Of course, there's going to be the problem of acceptability. But we have some serious researchers who have been researching into the use of those local materials in such a way that it could be acceptable at the city center. I think there's one Professor Lumide at Unilag. He did his house using mud. These are things we also need to look into if we are really serious about I cannot expect MD to provide a house of 10 million. Augusta, are you doing that? But at the same time, we need to provide for them. It's just like the Makoko that we have now. The plan of the government there, in collaboration with the World Bank, is to try and see how we take them in within their capacity. For example, they could be assisted by way of subsidized roofing materials, so that when we drive on the top mill, instead of looking at the shanty settlement, we can assist them to ensure that they too also live well. Because if we go there and remove them, they will just move to the next place. And the fact is that they also have rights to live. Ironically, we really cannot do without them. Because there are so many activities within the high-end developed area that must be carried out by the low end. So the onus is on us to also take them in along our plans. Prospect of new town development and planning in Lagos State. Spatial discongestion and balanced urban growth. I think Prof also mentioned about that. New town development offers opportunity for redistribution of dense population, ease of congestion in developed area. You remember the time of Jakonde? Those are the things that Jakonde did, the low-cost housing that he did. And it was based on the report on the professorial thesis of, I think, Professor Wahab of University of Ife then, which is what is called percentage completion. And that was what Jakonde did. The houses are built basic with no plastering, externally plastered, internal no plastering, no window, no door. It's only the entrance door, and you have the key. And the essence of that is that they were able to sell those houses very, very cheap. Even structurally, the methods that was used, but those Jakonde houses, none of them has a frame structure, no columns and beams. They were all built on load-bearing walls, and they are still existing to the day. The only challenge being that poor soil evaluation. Opportunities for large-scale housing development. Players like UPDC comes in here. Newtown creates opportunities for large-scale mixed-income housing, provides service plots, encourage PPP-driven estates, integrate social housing for low-income group. Even the Jakonde one that we have at Abeson, for example, the one along Lekki is here. What do we have? The drivers of the Ogas at the Koyi, they will go there and rent it off them. So the people will either rent or sell to them, and the next thing they'll do is to put a small shed in front of on the street. So those are challenges associated with low cost. Even when you make provision for them, the chances are that they may, if it is too high above their scale, then there are problems along the line. Opportunities of infrastructural modernization and smart city development. Newtown provides platform for modern infrastructure design, technology, and innovation. Improve road, grill, and transit corridor. Unlike the local development, any new town that is done in Lagos here, they are done with the provision of all the basic infrastructures, the road network, the lights, and that's power and water. Stormwater drainage design, potable water and sanitation works, renewable energy integration, broadband digital infrastructure. This will enhance the possibility of smart city ecosystem, especially corridors like Ekpe and Agbowa's scheme. Economic diversification and new growth pool. Strategically located new towns can serve as new economic engine, which includes the technology hub. I talked about our ODPs now. I will encourage us to try and see some of these ODPs, especially the one that we just released around Ibejuleki. There are super considerations that we have there. We have technology hub that people can play. For example, players in Formula One are already discussing with us to have in Nigeria now Formula One racing, which we are looking at around Badagry. Industrial parks, logistics center, tourism nodes, and free trade zone. These are new areas that developer can take advantage. And of course, we have example, the Lekki Trade Fair Zone is there, the Alaro City is there, Eco Atlantic is there, and the Lekki International Airport Corridor is also there. Climate resilient and environmental management. Many existing communities are vulnerable to flooding, coastal erosion, and sea level rise. For example, Lagos Island that we have now is seriously, let me find the right word to use so I don't create panic. But there's a problem there because right now, all the water from Lagos Islands are pumped out. There's no allowance for natural flow because the lagoon level is higher than and if you drive around Isaleko, you see so many areas, even with top of dry season, you still find water there. And what they even do in Lagos here, which we need to take instant action. You go there, the whole of Lagos Island, they don't have a sock away. What they have is a septic tank, which they pump out every 2 a.m. Because in 3 days it's filled up. Because there is no drain. Newtown will correct all this. Improved institutional reform with LAGIS, that is our GIS, and electronic planning permit system. There is, that will ensure transparency in development control and a seamless interagency coordination and for better land administration. In Lagos now, we have invested very heavily in terms of land administration, starting back from even before the council, the British Council, because we have the Lagos CFO, you have the Western, you have Nigeria, you also have the West Africa, and when we have the British colony in Nigeria. So we have harmonized all this in Lagos State now. We've been able to trace to the very first allotee. So a particular land in Lagos now, we can trace this to the very first person that was allocated, and now it has moved down to the current holder. Private sector participation and investment opportunity. With vibrant real estate sector, many Newtown development present opportunities in PPP projects. We are waiting for Oga here let's have something together. Land value capture mechanism, I've just talked about that. Commercial and real estate growth and foreign direct investment. We in the ministry, we are already working on that because we want to leave the regular property development, which is residential and commercial, to our local players. But we need to look outside there are so many areas. Just about 2 or 3 months ago, the governor went to Ilason on the beach, and we're trying to plan up that area very well. I don't know why local players are not showing interest, but we are already discussing with foreign partners now to see what we can do on our coastlines. So, Augusta, I also expect that you also look in that direction. After working for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, a CEO wants to relax and he doesn't want to travel. There are opportunities here in Nigeria that we can also develop for people to recreate. social transformation and living standard. A well-planned new town provides opportunity for distributed social amenities. I think Prof mentioned about it, the schools, the health center, and the markets. Efficient transportation, we've also talked about that. Green space, recreation, and orderly use. In fact, there was a time some of my staff left the office in Ikeja there, and it will surprise you to know that if somebody leaves Ikeja, that is going to, let's say, Chevron, and another person is going from Ikeja to, let's say, Shagam. The person going to Shagam, chances are that he will get there earlier than. So the meaning of that is what even Prof have just identified. There is a need to have a regional cooperation among states that are close to Nigeria. We have already commenced that with with Ogun State and Ondo State, because if you go along the coastal road now, on a bike, under 45 minutes, you get to Ondo State. Regional integration, I've just talked about it. So in conclusion, sustainable and livable Lagos mega city development lies in the strategically planned new town that integrates housing. Coincidentally, the New Town Development Authority commenced today a retreat in Ekpe, today, tomorrow, and Friday. So that's why I will have dragged the GM down here. It will be there. And unfortunately, again, on Friday, which is supposed to be the last day, he has to be in Abuja because we have a meeting there with, there has been a serious challenge with the military authorities. If you go along Ekpe now, you see so many military formations that have taken some of our land, so we're trying to sit down and resolve all these things together. So we can, I'm sure you can agree with me that with a well-planned new town, which is to integrate housing, infrastructure, transportation, environment, and economic activity, this new town, if supported by strong governance, which we have no choice but to provide, and community engagement, which we expect from the community, and a sustainable urban planning can make Lagos competitive globally and more livable and resilient mega city. Thank you very much. In Lagos, we normally end our talk with Igbega Ipinle Eko Ajumoshowa. The growth of Lagos State is a collective effort. Thank you very much.
Our dear Honorable Commissioner, Physical Planning and Urban Development, Lagos State, we thank you so much for your intervention this morning. And of course, being our special guest of honor, we say thank you for ensuring that you've brought to light some of the government's interventions and challenges. Dr. Oluyinka Olumide, we say thank you once again. Please appreciate him again as he takes his seat. I believe he has raised a few more questions that those in the fireside conversation would have to unearth, unpack, and provide more solutions to, very realistic solutions, timely solutions, and this is our hope. One question that I will be asking already, and I'll be throwing to our moderator to find a way to bring out the answer, would be the role of the media in all of this, for enlightenment, for clarity, because what is not known will continue to bring problems, yes? So I would like that conversation, that question to find its way to give us some answers as well. I would also make a request, and I'm hoping that you will grant my request to those who are sitting and they're unoccupied seats in front of you. Please, is it okay if you just take a step forward and move and cover those? Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you. Please, on both sides of the aisle as well. If there are unoccupied seats in front of you, please do well to just move forward. I'm seeing a number of people moving already, and I say thank you. Please clap for those who are moving. Thank you. To those who are online, I will be watching personally to take your questions that could come, and I would make sure they get to the moderator on time. So once the question comes, if it hasn't been dealt with already, I would signal to him to ensure that it is taken care of. On that note, I'd like to welcome our moderator for this session. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at UPDC. Please welcome Mr. Prayer Johnson as he makes his way to stage. He sits at the heart of the company's strategy, partnerships, and development projects. And so, I know, please help me move this to the side if you don't mind. Yes, just move it so that I finish your introductions. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, welcome. I welcome Professor Franklin Ngu, who was up here earlier and delivered the keynote. Please welcome him as he comes back to join the fireside conversation. Also, we have joining us on stage the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, Engineer Oluwole Sotire. Please welcome him very warmly today. Managing Director, CEO, Eco Development Company. Please welcome Mrs. Erejuwa Badibo as she comes forward. Mr. Louis Ogbefun is also going to join this conversation. He is the Chief Investment Officer, Total Energies Nigeria Closed Pension Fund Administrators. Welcome, sir. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Questions abound. Answers are here by those who are required. Yes. Please, I hand over to Mr. Moderator now. Thank you, sir. Your timer, sir, is right here. All right. All right.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all our invited guests. You are all welcome to this fireside chat. We've put together a team of panelists that we believe we do justice and throw more insight into the discussions at hand. If we have any doubt about how topical this issue is about new towns, I'm sure with the presentations we've seen by our professor here and the discussions that the commissioner put forward, we all must agree on how important this topic is for economic development, urban planning, and the long-term future for Lagos State. So without much further ado, I want to go straight to Engineer Sotire and to ask, in terms of new towns development in Lagos, from all that we have heard here today, what exactly are the guidelines in terms of planning from a government perspective that we have in place to ensure that this dream and this talk about getting new towns to ease the pressure from existing towns, what exactly are the guidelines that government have in place from a planning perspective?
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, good morning, everybody, and thank you to UPDC for giving me this opportunity to talk about the view of the government on some of these things. Well, what leads to the creation of new towns? We need to first of all understand that it's obvious that there's a need. There's a need for expansion. There's a need for better coordinated livelihood. We need to put things in a more coordinated manner as against scattered and unsustainable living. So it has become necessary for the government to create new towns, not just by itself, but also putting in models for private sector to also come in. Today in Lagos, the major concentration of new towns is towards the Bejuleki and the Ekpe axis. And what has been the catalyst for this? there is the coastal road coming up. Well, it's gone so far. There is a green line, which would also start from CMS to as far as the Lekki Free Trade Zone. Even the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway is being planned for expansion to about 10 lanes. So what does that mean? There is easy connectivity all the way from CMS to Ekpe. Also, in that region, the Lekki-Ekpe zone, they have the Lekki Free Trade Zone is there. I mean, you have an idea of the number of people that will be working there. The airport is coming up, the Dangote refinery is there. And so we really don't want a situation where people are commuting all the way from Lagos Island all the way down there. So that again brings up the need for there to be a residential, not just residential, but new cities around that location so that people don't have to travel too far. And so that's a major cause for that. Now, in the development of any of these new town cities, we have hierarchies of plans. We must plan what you call a master plan. We must have an idea of what we want to do. I mean, you cannot leave development to just be scattered. And so we have a hierarchy of plans starting from the regional master plan down to various levels. And so for each new town, there must be a plan. You could call it a layout. Because even within that private layout or whatever you call it, city scheme, within that thing, you must make life easy for them. So it's not always that the kids, for example, have to go to school too far away. So you must make sure that within the same area, so for example, within Ekpe, there should be enough schools to cater for children of people that will be living in Ekpe. They don't have to go from Ekpe to Victoria Island or from Ekpe to Bejuleki. So the series of schemes and layouts that will be, somehow there must have been enough provision for schools. Also within this layout, it is expected that there will be commercial services. People don't have to leave Ekpe to go to Shangotedo for shopping. And so that layout itself must first of all go through a process of approval. We have to see that some of these things are being put in place. And so we ask that when people, I'll first get to this, because the New Towns Development Authority has a scheme now where it involves the private sector, and they sell these pieces of land to them in bulk. I won't even say sell, they allocate to them because it's not at the selling price. They allocate to private sectors for development. And you're allowed to come up with your own scheme. I mean, do your own design for what you want. So at this stage, you are expected to come for an approval. The approval might be, depending on the type of land, it might be with the state government, it might be with the New Towns Development Authority. But you need to get an approval. The idea of involving the private sector is we are not leaving everything to government. They know that government cannot catch up. The rate at which allocations go on is faster than the rate of the infrastructure development. So the private sector is being invited. And so at this stage, you need to get an approval. And once it's approved, and if it is, well, there are different methods. Either the private developer builds houses or further allocates the land. The private sector will now be expected to concentrate on providing services, infrastructural services. Okay. So the private sector will be expected to provide infrastructural services. But upon allocation of the land, the individual purchaser are expected to find out what is approvable. And it is in their own interest. Don't just build because the man next to you is building a 2-story building. Let me put up a 2-story building. It's in your own interest to find out what is approvable. We have seen situations where people start to build 2-story buildings and suddenly realize they could go 4-story buildings after they've started construction. And then they now start begging, I want to go 4 floors. But you've put the foundation for 2 floors. And you begin to make all kinds of promises and begin to declare, not my portion, the house will not collapse. But you didn't do it from the onset. But what I'm saying is that right from the onset, you need to know what is approvable. You need to know what is obtainable for you. And so we are encouraging people, when you purchase a piece of land or when you have plans for development, please do not hesitate to go through the necessary processes. Get your land information. These services are more or less free. Get your land information, get your planning information, know what is obtainable, what you can do, and decide the maximum, know the maximum level you can go. Don't go beyond it. And if you know you can afford more, take the maximum you can do so that you don't come back and say you want to change, because the process of change is always a bit tedious. And so that's the main thing. You need to get your planning information, get your land information before you start your development. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just to push you a bit further, sir, on some of the comments you made about infrastructure. We hear about these rail lines that are coming to Ekwe, red line, the green line. I mean, are coming to, yes, the Ekwe axis. How long would this take in your estimation, sir?
Okay, so it's the green line that is coming from CMS to the Lagos Free Trade Zone area. I cannot say how long, but what I will say is, I don't know if I'm to be diverging most of this, but okay. So the company that is handling it, or the financiers, are looking at a 2-3 year timeline for the completion, and I dare say the main works will start maybe in the next 1 month. They said December 2025. But when I say the main works, it doesn't mean the physical thing. There are a lot of things to be done: acquisition, compensation, revocations, because again they're going to be expanding that route, and so some things would have to give way. You have to do proper documentation, So, well, like I said, all things being equal, within 2-3 years, it should be delivered. Thank you.
Super. Prof, please let me come to you. My question would have been for you to share your experience globally on how new towns have been developed in the past. But I see during your presentation you did some kind of justice to that generally. So I'll just narrow down my question to this. In terms of how these new towns are developed, is it infrastructure, like the roads, the rails that come first, or people, developers like us, then develop, and then these infrastructure meet up with whatever development has been put in place?
Okay. Thank you very much, MC. I'm sure we all agree that UPDC, with regards to the estate, you either buy or possibly you get one of the properties by earning points. And I've been the keynote speaker, and I'm also a panel member. So my point level is, I think they are going up. And very soon, maybe I will earn one of the properties in one of the properties. And also, I expected also to clap for the PAMSEC when you say that this red line or yellow line or green line, that we get to Lekki Free Trade Zone in 2-3 years. Because if we remember the ones that they've done and the number of years it took, if they now do it in 3 years, I think it deserves. A round of applause. But with regards to your question, moderator, I think both ways. In some societies, in some cities, the government will take the lead and provide the infrastructure in terms of road, railway, and of course there's something that is called, they use it mainly in monetary policy, forward guidance. So the government can say, okay, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, and I also know in planning as well, you can say these are the areas that we are hoping to develop, which will be properly communicated to developers and all that. And they will know that, for instance, maybe between Lagos State and Ijebu, there may be in Ishiwo, for example. I'm just using example. Maybe Ishiwo town. There's going to be a new town in Ishiwo town, maybe in the next 5 years. And of course, developers will now start taking positions there, maybe buying land, buying this and buying that. And maybe in government budget, they will say, okay, in the next 3 years, there's going to be a road going from maybe Lekki Ekpa Expressway going to Ishiwo, or maybe from the expressway going to Ijebu, going to Ishiwo as well. So it can be both ways. Government can take a lead, and the developers can also go through government planning documents and see where they are going, and now take positions in those locations, and of course engage government through advocacy, through lobbying, to fast-track the infrastructure development. Thank you.
Super. So let me go to Mrs. Badebo now. As MD CEO of Eco Atlantic, the Eco-Atlantic project is believed to be a model, so to speak, for new towns creation, large-scale urban planning and all that. What exactly were the technical challenges, including maybe financial or the main issues around the development of Eco-Atlantic that you had to surmount to make it what it is today?
Good morning. Are we still morning? Yeah, 5 minutes. Okay, so the very first thing is I'm not the MD CEO of Eco-Atlantic City. I'm the MD CEO of Eco Development Company, who has built on Eco-Atlantic City. But having said that, in a past life when I was a consultant, I consulted for the city. So I understand. Now, if you're like me and you're a Lagosian, you grew up in Lagos, you knew that there was a time when you couldn't get to the beach edge unless you used a donkey, because it was that far. And then the water came in. So the original primary reason, as it were, or physical reason for the city was to shore up the shoreline of what was left of Lagos and restore it to what it was before erosion that was caused by the revetments that the colonials did to deepen the harbor into. It caused a current that eroded the original beach. Now, taking from the examples of new cities and new developments around the world, including places like the Palm Jumeirah and all those places in Dubai that have, reclaimed land, and also from their experience with, say, Banana Island, they realized the need to actually create a defense wall. Because Lagos, if you know, is not very high. Places like where I live in Dolphin, as the Honorable Commissioner said, we're below sea level. So one of the things you're going to do if you're going to create a defense city or a defense piece of land is to raise it above sea level. So for all of you naysayers who are saying that the water is coming to get us, it will get the rest of Lagos first. Because Eco-Atlantic City is about 8 meters above sea level, protected by the Great Wall of Lagos. So the lady who asked what the media can do, tell the right story. Is there. Research. Don't do desk job. Come and ask. I mean, the other day, I got email. Sorry, I tend to go off-piste, so when my time is up, just yell. But the other day, I got a message. Eritrea, we saw you on television. Really? I didn't go on TV. Really, did I? And it was this video that went viral. And in my defense, not being a millennial, I didn't know who came to interview me. I didn't know him. I just said, come on Sunday after church, because my church is on Eco-Atlantic City. I'll come and meet you in the office. And when he started off chatting, and I realized the amount of misinformation about the city that was out there, I got kind of shirty with him. How dare you? No, actually, this is the real story, and blah, 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 blah. And then he came up with the question which the commissioner had, and you also answered. You're only developing for the rich. Yeah, because it's actually very expensive to reclaim land to that level. Where do you get the finance? You have to sell. So you sell to those who coincidentally should pay the most tax for government to then develop the low cost and the medium cost housing. And guess what? For as long as we have to import stuff, there's no such thing as low cost. So let me just debunk that myth for you all. But what were the challenges? Okay, the first challenge was we need to protect Lagos. And so they first of all built the original dike that was along Amadou Bello Way. Now for people like me who are of West African origin, so I'm a bit of a mongrel, we used to travel on that road from Lagos to Accra every single holiday. While all our peers were going abroad for summer, we went to Ghana. And every 2-3 years, the road would move because the Atlantic has eroded it. So it's not peculiar to Lagos. And contrary to what some may think, the erosion happening further down Goshen is not on account of Eco-Atlantic. I just want to debunk that other myth. So there was a need for shoreline protection. So they put it there. And they could have left it like that. But Lagos, as has been rightly pointed out, is the smallest, the most densely populated state in the country, is the economic powerhouse, dare say, of the whole of Africa. So really, there is a need for land. So came the idea, let's reclaim to the original positions. And they did research. I know this because my company was involved at the time, Brawl, and later on Clutton, in some of this research. To actually say what works, what doesn't work. What works, what doesn't work. What doesn't work is infrastructure to the city. If it's not existing, you end up with isolated places. And for people like me who grew up in Lagos, living in places like Palm Grove Estate, going to school in Holy Child College, and walking home for the last 2 years, which is probably why I didn't do so well at O levels, but that's a different story. Because they were building Third Mainland Bridge, the traffic would start at Holy Child College Gate in Obalende, and it would take you 3, 4, 5 hours to negotiate home to Palm Grove Estate. It was faster to walk. So we just walked. So when you create a new town, everything that is needed for the everyday life of the human being should be within that town. And schools is not just about buildings, it's about teachers, it's about people. And planning these towns has to be based on the research. What's happening with the population? Somebody mentioned the school children. Again, what's happening? Are we forward planning for them? So one of the thoughts that came to Eco Atlantic was, okay, or the developers of Eco Atlantic, who, by the way, are South Energics, part of the Shaguri group, was what is needed by the city. And what was needed by the city was extra land. Because Lagos is bound on all sides. And one of our borders is the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, hello, please. You cannot expand ad infinitum into the sea. But because of the continental shelf to where the beach originally was, you can expand to there. So they then went away to the experts on dikes back in the Netherlands. What do we need to do to contain this land? How do we stop it eroding again? Hence the Lagos Wall that I alluded to. So there was that engineering done. Okay, you are going there. What about tsunami? Then they started testing. There was a lot of testing done on the wall. What would be needed to sustain the surge from the Atlantic Ocean? And they came up with things like, you need to have your wave breakers. So what will hold the wave breakers in place? Hence the boulders that, thank you Abel Kuta, supplied en masse. I don't know if anybody remembers the lorries that used to trundle all the way down Ahmadu Bello Way, depositing the boulders that will hold, the smaller boulders that will hold the wave breakers. And the wave breakers are scientifically planned by some of the best engineering minds. Now, I will never be so bold as to say it cannot fail. After all, the Titanic was not meant to fail. We all know what happened there. But to the best of our scientific knowledge as at today, what has been tried to be achieved is a wall that will break the force of the waves of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, I don't know, I'm sorry, I will take 1 more minute of your time. Like I said, I tend to go off-piste. You have to forgive me, otherwise don't invite me next year. But there you go. I don't know how many of you remember, say, for example, Landmark Beach, that there was a lot of bad press about. So let me tell you the truth of it. The only reason there was a Landmark Beach was because the Lagos Wall that was built to contain Eco Atlantic City went ahead of the reclamation of Eco Atlantic City. And they knew it would take 5 to 10 years to get to there. So hey, that now created a bay that people could enjoy. Nobody could enjoy that beach before the Lagos Wall came to stop the force of the waves. So you ended up with like a Tarkwa Bay situation for those of you like myself who spent many a night as a child sleeping in Tarkwa Bay. Tarkwa Bay is Tarkwa Bay and is safe because it's a bay. So this wall was to break the force of Eco-Atlantic, of the Atlantic City, of the Atlantic Ocean. As you know, people who lived on the side of Kuramo waters one day woke up and they had been washed away by the ocean. So the wall rises up about 9 meters to kind of offer as much protection as can be planned for what lies behind. And the idea with the city, and you're going to begin to see a little bit more of it. So for example, Eco Development Company, which I manage, our first and only project to date. We're not like UPDC, don't worry. When I grow up, I want to be like you. But there we go. Oh, I worked on Abebe Court, which was one of your first and best. So there you go, when I was a rookie. But some of us, so Eco Development, say for example, has built residential and commercial. Some like Alpha, that's commercial. Then you have Eco Pearl, that's residential. And you have the likes of my good friend here who's also building, and you have churches. And what they're trying to do with the city is provide everything within the space. So the need to commute, because we only really have Amadou Bello Way leading to there, but the need to commute is reduced. And the last thing I was going to say, but then I think I'm having a senior moment and I've forgotten. But anyway, the point just being that the idea is to create everything within the city so that there isn't so much of a need. And as COVID showed us, the one good thing that came out of COVID, you can work effectively without ever getting into a car. And I think my time is up, or was a few minutes ago, so there we go, I'm done.
Thank you so much. You said quite a lot, and from what I could get, there were mainly environmental issues for Eco Atlantic that you had to overcome. And it takes a strong developer with foresight and care for the environment to do that. So thank you.
For those who like my good friend over here, have had the foresight to actually develop on Eco Atlantic City, it is the easiest land to develop on in Lagos today. There's the bedrock. That was always there. It never got washed away. It's been reclaimed using sharp sand, as opposed to a lot that have been reclaimed using lagoon sand. So for anyone who is structural, you're using driven piles, and the piles are driven through sharp sand and are held together. Number one. Number two, it's a free trade, a free enterprise zone. So, sorry, Lagos State, it's tax-free. It's cheaper to import straight in there. And restrictions on height, minimal. It has one major restriction. You have to make sure there's enough parking on the land. So, take for example, Azuri Towers. We have 4 layers of parking: basement, PO1, PO2, PO3, PO4. Before we now have our podium on PO5. And we go up 32 stories.
Yeah.
So developers, please come. There's land to buy. And it's not that expensive. It's the same cost as Victoria Island land. So don't believe the hype. Okay, thank you.
Super. Okay, so let me go over to you, Louis. Following that, you're the money man, and you're also actively involved in the development yourself. So from a financing point of view, what sort of criteria, what do you look out for as an investment man if you are approached by a developer today to say, there's this new town we want to develop, and we need you to come with us? What are the key things you'll be looking out for?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I want to thank you for the honor of this invitation. And first of all, I want to say I do not speak on behalf of my company. So not that when I finish from here, you come and say, I promised that we'll do this. I speak on behalf of my experiences, both in and outside of my company and in different capacities, in both development and in investing. I think one key thing is that investments do not stand alone. There's an ecosystem, and I like the way the keynote speaker started with looking at the ecosystem, looking at the GDP, looking at all those things. All those wonderful things we have here are being driven by, there's one powerful factor which is called the interest rate. So if today we are going to invest, we are going to look at, there's a lot of lazy money, which is if they bring an investment to you here, you are going to check how much will you get if you just sleep and put the money in fixed deposit, like the friend of our keynote speaker. So there's already a significant hurdle for anybody who wants to do any investment, because the likes of the government bonds and securities are, in quote, risk-free. So if I'm going to take a risk, if today, risk-free, like they've announced yesterday, 27%. So if I want to do anything, I'm looking at something that will give me more than that. So every investment is already challenged by a 20-something% that they have to exceed before they can attract an investor. But there is a dilemma again with the government, is that if the interest rates are low, then there's not much incentive for the foreign investors to bring in money. And if the foreign investors don't bring in money, you are afraid about dollar, naira, and everybody starts to run and panic. So it's like a chicken and an egg. I solved the problem. I ate them both anyway, but that aside. So every economy that has grown significantly, if you look at the Chinese, you have to deliberately create an environment with low interest rate. And Nigeria is very fortunate in the sense that most of the money that we need is here. The country is poor, in quote, because Nigerians are richer than Nigeria. The biggest debt holder is Nigerians. So if you go to Ghana or any of these other countries, you don't have enough internal capacity to buy government securities the way, so it's exposed globally. So the reason why your Euro bonds has never really fallen that bad is because once the foreigners dump it, the Nigerian picks it, and it manages the price. So going back to what we are saying, is when an investor is looking at this piece of real estate, he's not looking at just real estate, he's looking at investment. So how sure is he that is going to give you that size of gain? And a lot of times you are looking at the gain coming from value appreciation. But the problem with residential real estate in Nigeria is that your key metrics for profitability on rent is that your rental yield should supersede your interest cost. So today, a rental yield lies lower than the interest cost. So a friend of mine came to meet me. Okay, I was then in my other life, I was the president of our cooperative. And he said, oh, I've just been transferred here. I want a house. I want to buy a house in Uniru. It was 100 million naira. That time. Okay. So he says he wants to take a loan. I say, why do you need a loan to buy the house? He says that he doesn't want to give landlord his money. I say, but you give the bank your money. Somebody will take the money. So he says that he wants to own, anywhere he goes to, he likes to buy and own his house. I did the maths for him. I said, if you borrow, you are going to be paying 20 million naira every year, which is 4 years. How much is the rent? It says 5 million. So 4 years of rent is what you will pay. You have not even paid for the house itself. So, but if you go to the UK, where my lovely professor buys his cream, if you go to the UK, you get an average yield of 6 to 8%, and your interest during the normal times is less than 3%. So there's a gap, which is the profit, which now escalates your return. So your leveraged return is getting towards 18%. So real estate becomes interesting because there's leverage in there. Same thing, you go into a business. If we come as a business, we want to invest, we have to boost the equity with leverage. If leverage is more expensive than equity, there's no leverage. We can't do it. So if you have today fintechs are paying, DFIs are paying, some people are paying plenty money somewhere. I hope that one of them sees me and says they want to pay me. But so you have two young professionals One of them is in London, earning $100,000. The other one is here, earning $100,000. Some people do earn that here. And they both want to buy a house of $300,000. He wants to buy one from her. The other person wants to buy one in London. The one in London can afford it. The one in Nigeria cannot afford it on the same pay. Because we think affordability is about price of house. No, affordability is about payment terms. And we should stop killing ourselves about reducing the cost of house. It's not going to happen because the cost of land, cost of cement, cost of construction, the labor is the same. So what we can do is to make the person, the buyer, get to the level of the house rather than force the house to the level of the buyer. So a 200 million naira house will not be affordable even with a 40% discount. So we can't solve the problem by subsidizing the developer. We have to subsidize the buyer, developer. So if we subsidize the buyers, we'll have a lot more buyers, and the developers will solve their problem, trust me, when they have enough buyers. And then the investors will be happy because there's an exit route, because there's somebody to buy or somebody to rent. So we have to face this interest rate problem. So back to this same two gentlemen, the one in London and the one in Lagos. The one in Lagos, if he sweats, he buys one house. He's able to raise the $200,000 or whatever. The one in London needs only a 10% deposit. So for every one house you create in Lagos, they can create 10 houses in London. Imagine affecting that on the entire GDP. The $1 trillion economy will be easy to achieve. But we have to first break it down and see the real enemy, which is our cost of interest. And then if we address those issues, then a lot of things will fall in place. People don't need her house to be cheaper. They just need nobody. If you go to America, it's 30 years to pay for that kind of house at a single-digit rate. So he can afford it. So when you find out that a father who paid the son's school fees cannot afford the house, and the son who is who was paid for because it's in America can afford the house. So we have to look at those deep things. Then again, they're beautiful enough that I have the mic, so I will throw a few questions to you, sir, and to you. We are doing 3 major rail projects. Everything is stopping around CMS. How do we get inside VI? So if we don't solve that problem, they will have to still bring their car. We must solve a problem of moving within the city, like the way they solved the problem in London. So it's not enough to have the trains stop at CMS, but we need to solve the VI problem. Yeah. Then another thing again is that there's the task given to the developers or the landowners that do the new cities. You say this portion is for school, this portion is for this portion is for that. How many schools can afford the land in the end? What happens usually in many countries is that instead of collecting so much levy and fees from the developers, the government takes responsibility for those portions for the school and all that, and then negotiates with the schools and all those things, gives them that subsidized rate or payment plan to bring them in. So there are some people you need, even the developers too. If you bring in 3-4 banks for free or for a significantly discounted rate, like they did in Canary Wharf when they were building the city in London or in La Défense in Paris, you bring some anchor tenants for significantly discounted rates, or even they pay a long payment plan. If you bring one bank, it brings 5,000 people that have to be coming there. After some time, they may say, okay, maybe I rent a place around. It creates that population that our speaker talked about. So, and then when you tell the developer, instead of paying all this 5% or whatever, what they do in places like the UK is that we take 5% of the houses. So let him build, give you 5% of the houses. You have enough ministry workers that you can give an incentivized mortgage to take those 5% of the houses. Then you will now mix the population. Otherwise, you have one population has only people at a certain level and there's no other person. Affordable housing is not the same as low-cost housing. It's just that it is housing and it is now affordable. So the challenge is to create the affordability. Thank you.
Super, super. Thank you. So let me just flow from what you have said. I picked up something concerning the incentivization, for occupancy, particularly for new developments like that. So let me throw to you, Mrs. Badebo. In Eco Atlantic, from what we can see from the outside, it seems that that's the sort of strategy you are adopting. Or is it that most of these big institutions that are coming, are they paying full price, or there's some kind of discount to bring in other institutions that would then drive occupancy within Eco Hotel? I refer to like the embassy, for instance. We have First Bank is coming. We see Okada has quickly put up something there. What's driving this new craze for occupancy uptake in Eco Atlantic?
Okay, I don't know all the answers. I know some, and so I'll speak to the ones that I do know. So the point that was made about, say, for example, the government taking over some of these core places. For example, everybody knows about Rugby School. Yes, it's a very expensive school in the UK, but they brought the school to Eco Atlantic City. It was built by the group for the school. So the group actually has the concession to own Eco Atlantic City. So build, operate, and then transfer back to Lagos State. So in however many years' time, it will come back and be part of the city proper, as it were. But it is within Lagos. So the school was built by what I would call the owner of the cities, or the owners, the runners of the city. So they are like the government of the city. The school was built. There are a number of churches that also have been given like concessions. The Anglican Church, there's a Methodist Church coming up, the Catholic Church, there's also one of the Pentecostal churches are also coming up. So there are areas that have been designated as church land. And the churches have been given not free land, but significant concessions to assist. Now, these are absolutely necessary. The point that was made about affordability is a point that is so pertinent. It's unbelievable. I own a house. Do I own it outright? No. I will in a few years' time, hopefully. I had 25 years to pay it off. 25 years. The exchange rate, the interest rate on my loan never rose beyond 1.25, 1.3%. I tried to buy a house in Lagos many years ago, and by the time they gave me the mortgage offer, I needed to be earning my salary in pure gold, because within 3 years, I would have doubled the cost of the house in interest rate. So one of the things we did in Eco Development Company, so now I'll speak about what we did, was we needed money to build. Went around the banks, ended up with Access Bank. Okay, we need money to build. All right, here's money to build. But we need people to be able to buy. So can you structure a mortgage for people to be able to buy at Azuri? And Access Bank structured a 10-year mortgage. In Naira, I mean, the houses are priced in dollars to keep the value, but in Naira, interest-free for the first 5 years. So of course, after that, if you haven't finished paying off, you have to go to whatever the interest rate was at the time. So what it meant was you could say, you know what, I have $1 million, let's just say. I want to buy this. I'll go and take a mortgage for 5 years, and I'll put my $1 million somewhere. And in year 4, I will liquidate some of my $1 million and pay the balance, let's just say. That's it in simple terms. It wasn't free to Eco Development Company. Eco Development Company paid Access Bank a rate for any mortgage that they disbursed. But what it meant was that the houses became affordable to people who wanted to buy. And I'll tell you that today, all bar one of the people who have bought have been Nigerians. And they haven't been oil and gas men. They've been people in industry. One man who's bought, his job is tomato paste. The point being that the developers, and I can't say I was there because it was long before my time, had enough foresight to say, how can we make this development affordable? And that's what I keep telling young people, that look, Eco Atlantic City is not for the likes of me. I'll be long dead and buried. It is for the people coming up. Get together and make it affordable for yourself. So you mentioned interest rates. Another thing is, and anybody who knows me well, has listened to me long enough, will know that I do not like banks and bankers in Nigeria, because I ask them, what value do you bring to the common man in the street? So the banks have a role to play in creating mortgages that are affordable. Government of England and Government of America does not give one mortgage to any one person. It is the Barclays banks and the NatWest banks and this bank and the housing associations here and so on and so forth that make it affordable. So they give the mortgages to those who can afford pure mortgages. Then the level or the equivalent of, say, the Lagos states and what we call our ministries are the ones who then come up with, they partner with banks to create a rent-to-own scheme. For who? For the people who are dustmen and teachers and nurses and doctors. The very people who are what I call the backbone of any society. But we don't have them. How many nurses, doctors, well, I won't even add doctors, but how many nurses, policemen, dustmen can afford to live in the Ikoyi that you want them to teach in, clean, clear the dustbins? They can't afford it. But I loved also what he said. It says time up. Sorry. The Section 6 agreement is what you were referring to in the UK. In the UK, it's called the Section 6 agreement. Yeah. I'm a developer. I want to build luxury housing. You will not get planning unless a portion is affordable.
Yeah.
You won't. So you say, okay, instead of doing 100 at this level, I'll do 80 at that level, and this level, 20 will be for the teachers, the nurses, the doctors. And that's what we need to do here. That is honestly what we need to do here.
Thank you. Thank you. So because of time, I'll just do one question with you, and you have 1 minute at least just to answer. So in terms of opportunities in Lagos, for the private sector, I know the commissioner alluded to several areas. If there are 2, 3, 4 areas that you feel the opportunities are there for developers, what are those areas, and what sort of developments would you advise to be there?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of opportunities, like I said, one very important thing is connectivity. And I talked about the various transport infrastructure coming up. I talked about 3 coming within that axis. There's the Green Line, there's the expansion of the Lekki Expressway, and the Coastal Road, which is already ongoing, which you all know. So, of course, we have what we call transport-oriented developments, things which are become very sellable. I mean, if you go to a lot of stations around the world, train stations, where the stations are, there are opportunities for massive commercial investments, shopping centers and the rest. I mean, these are quick stop points. So you just know you open somewhere, you get out somewhere, for example, you're at a shopping center. So you don't have to get out at a station and begin to look for another form of transportation to get to your shopping center. So we're saying these routes have become, the value of such lands are definitely going up. And so this is an opportunity for people to look at. But before you take the mic from me, I need to answer a few other questions. So first of all, on the green line, the other two lines, blue line and red line, like the prof said, were actually funded by the government. And of course, budgetary constraints, political decisions, and the rest. But the green line is being funded by the private sector. As a matter of fact, the main developer is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. And so, of course, I'm sure individuals don't play with their money. Private sector do not play with their money. Government money can be staggered. It's everybody's money, but not the private sector. On the issue of all the train lines going to CMS, the way it is, the station is just a stop. You could start from the Lekki Free Trade Zone and go to Mile 2. It doesn't mean everybody has to come out of the station. You get down there, you up into the next line. And that green line will definitely go through Victoria Island. I'm sure you walk and probably live in VI. That's why you're concerned. So definitely the green line is going to go through VI, all the way to CMS. And you said a third thing. Okay, yes, about rates. So I guess some of the public institutions, I cannot say the exact rate for the land acquisition, but I know for planning purposes, we have different rates. If you're putting up a commercial structure, the rates you are giving is different from a residential structure, and it's slightly different for public structures, things like schools. We have what we call the betterment rate. They don't charge schools, for example. So their rates are different. It might not be low like you want, but no, the rates are different, and some of these things have been taken into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, and finally for our prof. So in terms of public-private partnerships, how do you think that a better model can be, or what better model do you think we can implement locally to achieve a more successful rate for new towns development?
Okay, thank you very much. But first of all, I want to thank Madam Badebo for what she said. And what you said is that the real estate developers, that they should always reserve 20% discounted for teachers, doctors, and all that. So UPDC, you've heard that we have to do so that people like us who are teachers can buy. And also Eco-Atlantic, Madam Wadebo, it means that we can come and buy in Eco-Atlantic 20% for teachers, nurses, and all that. Okay. So Commissioner, you are here. So you have to, so all of you are here. I hope we are following. So that means I have hope of buying in Eco-Atlantic because I'm a teacher and as the case may be. But let me answer the question. It means that for us to have effective public-private sector participation, it requires the coordination of the different stakeholders, not just the private or the public. But as I said earlier on, sometimes the government needs to take a lead because of their responsibility for sustainable and inclusive development of the country. And I keep emphasizing, we need to think deeply about Nigeria. We're not doing it currently. It also requires that we need to rethink our exclusive list and concurrent list in terms of what the government can, what the federal government can do, what the state can do, and what the local government can do. To sit down properly and say, we have a population surge, we have a housing crisis, we have different issues. How do we solve this thing at national level, at state, subnational level, and at the local level? I think when we do this, we can at that federal government level now invite the private sector and say, these are the areas we want you to go in. If there are grants or subsidies to be provided, because it's government, they need to absorb some of these costs and some of these subsidies, particularly in terms of infrastructure. And now invite the private sector to now do the remaining one. But what is going on is that the federal government will do their own. Maybe they say the federal minister of housing. Different states will do their own. The government would. So there doesn't seem, I'm not seeing the proper coordination cutting across these different levels. And of course, I'm not sure that the federal government owns land. So the land normally with the state government and the local government. So the question is, how do we create a better synergy There's something that we do in LB. We normally invite public sector leaders to come and speak to us. And what is going on in the solid minerals is a case study that we can learn from. The former minister told us that whatever we do in the solid minerals, once you don't have the support of the state and local government, it's difficult to achieve. Because you cannot be in Abuja and dictate what is going on in Obomosho, or what is going on in Kwara, or what is going on in Zamfara or Enugu, as the case may be. So there needs to be that kind of effective, functional collaboration from the government and then the private sector. I know the time is up, but in time is my turn. The MC will stand up and say it's time. So let me stop. Thank you very much.
I think the panelists deserve a round of applause. We have just time for 2 questions, just 2. I'll give one to the Honorable Commissioner to make a comment or ask a question.
And there's a hand here, sir.
Okay. And another one here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mine is not a question, but it's an addition to what my peers just said. The other here asked about the, let me just explain, and I think the PS has tried a bit. The green line that we are going into now, it's, as explained by him, Murphy, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, and can be taken as a private led, not public, like the red and blue. But we have the green line from CMS. That's where we stop the present one in front of the governor's house. It will come on water, cross over the bridge, it goes over water at the back of American Embassy, and comes down to the center of the road after Civic Center. So if you run at the center of the road down to VGC, it moves to the side again, to the left side, and from Abraham Adesina to Alaro, it will be on that left side. We have already done the right of way. The people are already aware. Compensation is already ongoing. So technically, the work has actually started. And in plan, I think we have a program of about 2.5 years, hopefully. So, but that's the phase 1 from CMS to Shongotedo. That is opposite the ShopRite. There's going to be a station there. That's the phase 1. Then the second phase is from there to Alaro City before it eventually moves to Free Trade Zone. And you also talked about everything as CMS. Just yesterday in the office, we were discussing, because we have the metro line route is still there. Again, the way people used to behave, they are encroached heavily on that corridor. And that project is not cancelled. It's supposed to provide the interlink. That is, you drop at CMS, that one comes in and goes on. However, what we even have now in Lagos is an integration of all the transport modes, the rail, the water, and the road. I think between now and the next 2 months, we're going to have about 200 CNG buses that are coming in to support it. Right now, it's been integrated that from the same card that takes you on the rail, you can use it on water, and you can use it in our buses. They're already there. In fact, there was a day I was taking my son to the academy, which I believe is also applicable to most of us here. Majority of us here have not even entered the buses. Yes. So I just look at it when I park and say, come, I'm a Lagosian now. This is bus in Lagos, and I've never entered this bus. So I park my car, jump into the bus from Stadium, National Stadium to Ojota and back. And believe you me, it was wonderful. Wonderful experience. So what we have in Lagos now, in fact, right now, you have people coming in the morning from Ikeja or Egun, all the likes, who walks around via Lekki. So they will park at Ekoyi. Remember the stage we have at Falomo there. There's enough car parks. They will park there and take the boat. We have a lot of people now coming in from Ikorodu. So what they do is they will just drive to Ikorodu terminal there, park there, and take the ferry down to CMS to Ogombo. That route is every morning now. You need to go there and see what is done there. So we have that plan. The metro line, which was turned down by late President Buhari then, It's not yet cancelled in Lagos. We may still revisit it. And for those that have developed on that route, I'm sorry. When we are ready, we'll do the needful. Thank you.
Please, for time, because of our panelists that have to leave.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. My question is to the Commissioner and the Permanent Secretary. The skylines in Ikoyi are being beautified every day, and but I don't know what the plans for the supported infrastructure is, because the roads in Ikoyi are still the same that have been for the last decade, I guess. I don't know. That's what I'm asking. So what's the plan? Because we see the high rises, you know, a lot of them on Bodilon, around the entire Ikoyi axis. What's the plan for the supporting infrastructure?
Yes, thank you very much. So, you're right, the skyline is changing, but I dare say no, the infrastructure is not the same. A lot of roads are being developed, a lot of roads are being expanded, and I mean, the examples abound. Most of the roads have been changed, the names have been changed, so I cannot remember, but I know places like Glover, a lot of roads off Glover have been expanded, and it was in consideration of this. At the point of review, that's when it was decided that some of these buildings should go vertical. You know, all of this were put into consideration. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of those road rehabilitation. At some point, there was a lot of noise in the social media that why is the government concentrating on Ikoyi? And I'm sure some of you will recall that it was because of this upgrade of roads. So I want to say government is also considering upgrading infrastructure as long as the population in Ikoyi is also increasing. Thank you.
Everyone, please, another round of applause for our panelists.
Sound here. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for moderating. We'll have a few photographs immediately now. The first will be just all of you together in front of the stage over there. Please appreciate all our panelists as well for the questions answered. So we'll take one photograph there together. Then we'll welcome our MD to join the next photo with the Honorable Commissioner. Are they okay there, photographers, or should they take a step forward? Okay. Please smile. It's a great day. And it will even be greater when more implementation is made. Mr. Ojo, please join. Honorable Commissioner, sir. Thank you very much. And then after this, I would ask you to remain for the presentation of the plaques that say thank you for your... Yes, with this one. This one. Yes. Bring them out of the cases, please. Director, sir, please join up on stage for this next photograph. Thank you. Please smile, sir. Thank you very much. All right. So please, our speakers will all remain on stage as our MD presents tokens of appreciation, starting with our Honorable Commissioner who had spoken earlier. Yes, and after that, our keynote speaker. Yes.
So, on behalf of the board and the management of UPDC, we'd like to say a big thank you. You're a very difficult man to drag down to an event like this. So we are very honored that you took out the time. You stayed. You came very early. And we are really appreciative of your time. The reason why we allowed him to speak after the professor, is that the special guest of honor, the representative of the governor, always speaks last. Once the governor speaks, nobody speaks after him. So that's the protocol. So thank you very much.
Thank you
for your attendance and for your beautiful presentation.
Thank you, sir. The next presentation is to our keynote speaker.
Again, on behalf of the board and the management of UPDC, we would like to say a big thank you to Prof. I'm sure we're all very enriched by his presentation, the in-depth of his knowledge, and all the insights that he has shared today. So it's an honor to present this plaque to you. Thank you very much for coming and for your time.
Thank you. The next is to Mrs. Gwadibo, who we all loved and enjoyed very much. Did we? Yes.
I'm sure we enjoyed her comments.
Yes, we did.
They're very colorful and they were very practical. So on behalf of the board and management of UPDC, I'd like to thank you so much for making out the time. She's also a very busy person, so catching her was not so easy, but we're very glad that she was able to make it today. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next is to Mr. Permanent Secretary. Just go straight.
My dear PS, so on behalf of the board and management of UPDC, we'd like to say a big thank you for coming. He has also shared his thoughts and insights with us today, and we are very appreciative of your time. So thank you for coming and for sharing your ideas.
If your hands are free, you can put them together. Thank you. And finally, to the last man standing, Mr. Louis Ogbefun, also known as the Money Man.
The last but not the least, the Money Man. So on behalf of the board and management of UPDC, we'd like to thank you for coming today, for leaving everything else that you could have been doing today to make it here today. So we really appreciate your time and for your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ojo. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. In a moment, we'll ask you to please keep your eyes on the screens. We need you to keep your eyes on the screens. We still have a brief video presentation for you before we call it an afternoon. Thank you.
UPDC PLC has been at the forefront of Nigeria's real estate evolution. We have redefined skylines, created thriving communities, and built spaces where people live, work, and dream. From landmark estates to mixed-use developments, our legacy stands tall, built on excellence, integrity, and innovation. Each UPDC development tells a story of vision, of progress, and of people. Beyond the bricks and mortar, our projects have become catalysts for growth. We don't just build developments, we build the foundation of economic and social transformation. As our cities expand and populations grow, the future of real estate lies in creating new towns, planned, connected, and sustainable communities that power economic growth. New towns are modern residential clusters. They are engines of productivity, innovation, and inclusion. This year's Real Estate Summit celebrates this vision, exploring how smart planning and sustainable design can shape tomorrow's economy. At UPDC, we have taken this bold step forward with Brompton City, our newest master plan lifestyle community. Designed to embody the next phase of modern living, Brompton City integrates work, leisure, and nature into one harmonious space. It's a reflection of our enduring promise to create not just homes, but holistic environments where people and businesses thrive. A city within a city curated for connection, comfort, and community. From the foundations we laid decades ago to the new towns we're shaping today, UPDC remains the heartbeat of Nigeria's real estate journey. We continue to build with purpose, transforming land into legacy and communities into lasting impact. Because when we build for generations.
The Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon now, I think. It's a privilege to stand before you today as we bring this year's summit to a close. On behalf of UPDC, I extend our deepest appreciation to everyone who's made it here today and to make us a success. From my esteemed speakers, special guests of honor, the panelists, and everyone who's been here, we thank you very much. Today's conversations were rich and thought-provoking. We've explored the concept of new towns, not just as physical developments, but as strategic instruments for economic transformation. We've heard and we know that new towns can unlock land value, stimulate infrastructure investment, and create new corridors of opportunity, especially in rapidly urban country like Nigeria. At UPDC, we see new towns more than real estate ventures. They are platforms for inclusive growth, innovation, and long-term value creation. Our work at Brompton City, for instance, reflects this ethos, an ambitious mixed-use development designed to anchor new urban node, integrating residential, commercial, and lifestyle infrastructure in a way that supports both community and commerce. Similarly, at Hampshire, it represents our commitment to high-quality residential living with emerging urban clusters. It's a model for how thoughtful design and strategic location can elevate the standard of living while contributing to the broader urban economy. These projects are not just milestones for UPDC. They are proof points of what is possible when vision meets execution, and when development is guided by purpose. But the journey ahead requires than vision. It demands collaboration between government and private sector, between planners and financiers, and between developers and communities we serve. It requires policy frameworks that enable innovation, infrastructure that supports scale, and investment that is patent and purposeful. Imagine Nigeria our children will inherit, a nation dotted with thriving, sustainable, and connected communities that are engines of prosperity for all. This is the future we charted here today. Let us leave here not just inspired, but activated. Let us commit to building towns that work for people, for economies, and for generations to come. The blueprint is clear. Now we must build together. Thank you once again for being part of this summit. Let's continue to dialogue, deepen the partnership, and shape the future of urban Nigeria one town at a time. I wish you all a safe journey to your respective bases, and I look forward to seeing you at the next summit. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And before the next summit, please stay with us and refresh in the foyer, have something to eat, something to nibble. Our speakers are still here and on hand, so some of us might interact with them and ask more questions, deepen the engagement. Have a wonderful afternoon. My name is Joyce Daniels, Queen of Talk. See you at the next summit.